All right, in this movie, we're going to be going over basic character formatting. So up on the control panel, up at the top, you should have that still there. If not, just go to Window, then Control, make sure that's checked. And we'll see an A. If you hover over that, it gives us the tooltip, Character Formatting Controls. And then if you click there, there's Paragraph Formatting Controls. So these are just shortcuts to commonly used tasks related to character formatting and paragraph formatting in InDesign. We can do a lot of this also if we go to Window, type in Tables, and then we have Character, we have Paragraph. We can bring those panels up and they have a lot of the same options as we can see here. So I'm going to close those out in this example. I'm going to click and drag over the lunch special words with the type tool here and just highlight it just as if we're using a word processing program. And we can change the font. We can click there and select a new font, or we could type one in. So I'll type in Georgia, regular. And then for the size, we can select it there or type something in manually. Now below the font is, of course, the stylizing of it, the regular, italic, bold, and bold italic. And then below the size, we have the leading, and that's the vertical spacing. So I'll show this example down here. If I have just the top line selected or have the cursor up there, and I adjust that, say to 36, it's not going to do anything because it's just the vertical spacing between the line and the line above it. So I'm going to undo, and then I'm just going to select the second line there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better. Again, I'm pressing Control or Command plus on the keyboard. So by default, if we go to Auto, that's the default. I'm going to make that a little bit larger. 36 adds a lot of spacing there. And then we can make it a lot less spacing, and it would be closer to the one above it. So I'm going to keep that on Auto for this, and it's fine. Show another example here. If I just did 6, see how they all run together? And then if we did something like 24, then they're way too far apart. So I'm just going to do Auto. Usually Auto works fine. It's just good to know that we can adjust it in body copy there. There are a couple more options up on the control panel. For example, all caps. I already have this as all caps, but if we didn't, we could select it and make it all capital letters. Or all small caps. We have subscript and superscript. Those tiny characters there at the top and bottom of the regular text. We can also underline here if we wanted, and we can also do strike through for editing text, and we're indicating that you're removing a word. And we'll be going over kerning and tracking later, but basically kerning is just the space in between two letters, particularly with large titles and headlines. Sometimes specific fonts, that some of the letters look a little bit too close, and so we could adjust the kerning there by making it a larger number and just slightly adjusting it. The default is 0 there. And then tracking is just spacing between all letters in a word, a sentence, or a paragraph, or entire story. So by default, those are at 0. And we can really distort the text if we use vertical scale, horizontal scale, or skewing. I suggest keeping it looking more professional with the default, but we will be getting into more advanced text editing later. Now, baseline shift is helpful if we have a special character or something we have on the edges, and we just want it to move up or down. For example, if we had a exclamation point there and I select it and we wanted it higher up or we wanted it lower, 0 is the default. Or if we had quote marks, for example, first of all, we can make it larger, and then we wanted that baseline to come down a little bit, and so on. Now, if we wanted to center this text pretty quickly, we could just click the center text right there, align center, or we could go to the paragraph formatting controls and click center there, either way. And just like shapes, which we'll be getting into later, text has a fill and a stroke. So by default, this just has a black fill. You could double click on it on the bottom of the tools panel and select a different color. And if you wanted to have a border on it as well, say a complementary color to that blue, that probably won't look right, but we'll see. That's okay. That adds kind of a border or a stroke to it. You can also go to the character formatting controls and change it up here as well. So I'm going to actually change that back to black and then set the stroke to none for this example. So let's just do a couple quick edits here. There's too much trapped white space here. Let's go ahead and bring this up with the selection tool. I'm going to bring this up here just so it's flush with that. There's some nice breathing room in between. It's not, too close, something like that. So that's right along the edge there. Maybe a little bit more space. There we go. I'm going to press W to preview this, and I actually want this to stand out a little bit more. So I could go through and just experiment with the size. So I could go 120. Oh, that's too large. It has the overset text plus, red plus icon there. I could try 100. Oh, that's too much. I need to bring this down a little bit. Pressing Control A. You know, I could go through there like that, or you can just click in there and just press the up arrow, and that's one way to just see where we could have that go all the way across so it's flush with the edge there as far as alignment. Now I'm going to bring this one down a little bit. I'm also going to make this a little bit larger text. So I'm going to just click in here and then Control A on the PC or Command A on the Mac. And I'll just make this, I think 18.4, this poster. You notice it has this overset text indication, this red plus, it's meaning there's more text to place. And I could click that and flow it into another text box, you know, if we wanted 2 columns, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click and drag down. You notice it actually didn't have any actual text. It just had a space here because I had pressed return. So I'm going to just backspace that up. There we go. So in the next lesson, we'll start adding graphics, which is the emphasis of this project. We'll get into text more in detail in the lookbook project. We'll be adding graphics and adding special effects to them. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lesson.